Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 5th of January, comes to you from Laos in Asia. And we start by looking at currencies. Not a massive amount of change going on here. Then we look at markets. Markets up a little bit last night, especially the Russell was up 1.6%. And then some commodities. Oil just falling slightly, gold actually performing quite well, which we talked about. So we start with the dollar. Just fell off a bit, and so back below the cloud. We are in this sort of range at the moment. There's 101, 103.50 range, and I say 102, 103.50 range on the dollar index. But we are bullish, of course, on the longer term charts. But just seeing a little bit of uncertainty creeping in. Stronger euro having a little bit of an impact there on inflation numbers yesterday. And so the euro did just bounce, and that's just testing cloud resistance at the moment on the lagging line on the 60-minute. So we are just seeing a little bit of a seesaw going on here. 103.50, 105.50, those are the sort of levels. If we break higher, then the euro might get a little bit of respite. If we break lower, then that's further bad news for the euro. So at the moment, we are just seeing a sort of short-term recovery, but could be very short-lived. It's still a terrible-looking chart. If we take a look at the Japanese yen, also off. We're seeing the yen just strengthening a little bit against the dollar here. We did get as high as 118.50. We're back to 116.50 at the moment. So just a little bit of selling pressure occurring there on the dollar against most currencies, and that's actually also just showing through on the British pound. We're just seeing a small recovery here in the short term, but of course these short-term targets we talked about yesterday are still very much in train, so we expect any move to be short-lived. Euro is still stronger than sterling, and we've talked about that lately as well, and we're just seeing this 117 levels. Sterling has had an appreciation, and we do still think that the euro will be the worst performer this year. But at the moment, sterling is just selling off against most currencies in the short term. Here we see it against Swiss and against the Aussie. Just seeing sterling weakening there against other currencies, but not as much against the US dollar as it normally would. If we look at the S&P 500, we're up another 13 points overnight. So we're seeing that kicking through in the clouds, coming back to test this level, back into bullish territory here. Upside targets now activated to 2090.43. Let's say 2,300, 2,450 will be activated if we move above this 2276 level. So really quite key there that we are seeing an improvement in the S&P overall. US markets looking pretty strong as we head back into bullish territory. And if we look at the Nasdaq, also up 0.5% last night, we're seeing that move as well. So it's not quite as bullish as the S&P, not through the cloud yet, but that is still looking pretty bullish, and we've got upside targets here as high as 5% upside in the short-term chart, and quite a few upside targets here in the medium term. Looking at the Russell 2000, a stellar performance last night, up 1.6% into bullish territory on all charts. US small caps having an amazing start to the year, and if we look also at the Dow Jones index, of course only 30 stocks, but the bellwethers in here, another big move last night, and we're at 19,942. Surely we're going to break this 20,000 level quite soon. We've got an upside target on the short-term chart now activated to 20,161, so 1% upside. So it looks like we will smash this 20,000 level, if not today, maybe by the end of the week. But it's looking pretty close now. Futures market on the S&P down slightly, the Nasdaq up slightly, so no real guidance there for the futures markets yet, but it's pretty early in the day to be calling that. If we look at the FTSE 100, up 12 points yesterday, again just looking pretty bullish on all three time horizons. A shortage of short-term targets at the moment, but some really good medium and long-term targets. 9% upside, 14% upside. Looks like FTSE will have a good year, so that's great. And breaking that 2015 high was pretty significant. and the Santa rally helped us do that. If we look at the 250, not quite breaking that 2015 high yet, so mid caps just not quite performing as well. So we just need to be aware that a lot of the movement at the moment is in the blue chips. Of course, the higher oil price has driven stocks like BP and Shell driving the FTSE. The DAX still looking pretty bullish on all fronts. 1.8% upside target here, and quite a lot of targets as well. So another good looking chart for the year ahead for the DAX. If we take a look at the Nikkei, Nikkei moved up to over 2% yesterday. This morning we're seeing it up. It's just giving back 0.25% of those gains, so nothing adverse to worry about. The key thing is we activated this upside target to 27,800. That's 42% upside, so really significant there. China hasn't seen much of a change today, but the Hang Seng is up over 1% and into bullish territory on the short-term chart. 5% upside target. Good start to the new year. The run up to the Chinese New Year being a factor here probably as well. Bearish below the cloud on both the medium and long-term charts, but it looks like we're going to see some short-term respite there. If we take a look at the Indian market, continuing to power ahead on the short term, 3% upside, finding support in the medium term, looking pretty good. Long term, just holding support on the lagging line. Medium term still has some work to do to turn bullish. So just keeping an eye on India making those moves. If we look at the Australian market, it's just really been one fantastic march for the last 2 weeks, breaking into bullish territory on the weekly and on the daily and 60-minute. Aussie market looking really good, and a whole plethora of upside targets here. So really looking very bullish for the year ahead. We'll take a look at Brent crude. Crude oil prices just turning down a little bit, taking us below the cloud, but we are in the seasonally strong time of year. This is it last year. We look set to rise here. A new upside target off this thrust. If we break to above the 56.50 level, then 58.50 is the next level. And we've got these targets into the 70s, so we're still pretty bullish as well. Little change on US nat gas overnight. We did see yesterday it was just still below the cloud, and we do have a downside target of 313, so that's about 6% downside. So again, we just need to be aware of that. Big mover at the moment is coffee. Actually, most soft starting off the year doing quite well, but if we look at coffee, we see here the 3% upside move today, and about to activate this 10% upside. So although we're bearish on the medium term, the short term chart just turning bullish. Of course, we mentioned gold. Gold has had a terrible end to the year last year, 2016, but we've had a very good start to the year, and we can see now some strength really building in this short-term chart. We've got this upside target to 1192. That's still 1.6% away, and we are just seeing the gold heading into this recovery mode. We're still bearish on this medium-term chart, but this move is what we saw at the start of last year, and we are looking like we're finding support on the lagging line and the weekly cloud. So at the moment, we're just starting to build off a base here on gold. So that's it's too early to say that's a long-term recovery, but it's starting to look good in the short term for the first time in a while. Silver as well, much the same picture there as you would expect. Taking a look at 10-year Treasury yields, up nearly 1% overnight. So again, that's looking pretty strong. We are still bearish below the cloud here on the 10-year Treasury yield, but we are just holding this level at the moment. So interesting that we've met these downside targets, but the longer and medium term picture is still pretty bullish. Most tech had a good overnight with the in line with the Nasdaq. Just looking at Facebook, Facebook was the one I mentioned that this 115 level on Facebook is pretty critical. We've come back off that now, and we've tested this support level at 115, which is encouraging. We still need to get really above this 123.50 level on the price, and maybe even higher on the lagging line to be convinced. We've had these sell-offs in Facebook before. Looking at the long-term chart, still pretty bullish, and we're just moving into some short-term bullish confirmation, as we've got an upside target of 121. That would certainly, seeing it above 120 would be helpful. The key thing is we haven't activated this downside target, which is 26% downside, and we've got quite a lot of support here on Facebook with a lot of long-term upside targets. So this will be one of the critical stocks to see whether we power the Nasdaq ahead. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.